the leadership of this union, that this scholarly activity could have been conceived and here now being delivered. We thank you for all who have agreed to participate and to present. And we thank you for joining mercies for our guest speaker as he presents himself today and as he makes his presentations. We thank you for all those who have supported this venture in cash, kind, or by their services. And now as we commence our activities or continue our activities this morning, as we thank you for that which took place last evening, we commend this day to you, that all will go well. You have brought us to this point. Hitherto have you brought us, and we know that you will not leave us now. So be with us, continue to be with us. Bless all that will take place. And when it comes time for us to refresh ourselves, we commend the meal to you for your blessing. This we ask even as we give you thanks for all that you have done, for all that you are doing even now. And standing on your promises, we thank you even now for that which you have promised to do for us. And this we do in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Sir Meredith. And the task is mine to introduce and present to you our keynote speaker. There's a profile in the book, so I won't be doing an extensive introduction, but he comes to us with a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience, very practical person, a well sought after speaker in the area of artificial intelligence, and I'm sure that you are in for a great treat today. We have with us Dr. Kevin Yee from the University of Central Florida, where he serves as the Director of Teaching and Excellence, and he's also the assistant to the provost in the area of AI. I invite you all to join me in welcoming our dynamic, prolific keynote speaker, Dr. Kevin Yee.
You want me to check? A quick check. Am I stuck here, or can I move around with that camera? I can move around. Okay, excellent. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I am excited to bring you a message that will sound a little contradictory at times, but that's by design, and we're going to take a little bit of a roller coaster ride together, exploring how AI is both advantageous and also offers some really deep challenges for us. So one thing I want to point out on the screen behind me is that you won't need to take pictures as you go if you're the sort of person who normally does that, because there's a QR code at the very end to download all of the slides, so you'll be able to see them that way. So I do apologize for beginning at the beginning, but you never really know who's knows a lot about AI and already knows what it does. Probably most of us have toyed with it a little bit, but I want to say a few things about the basics at the very beginning. So first, AI is not new. They've been working on artificial intelligence since the 50s. Everything in your phone is AI. It's just that the thing that went viral in late 2022 is a different kind of AI. It's an AI that is it's called generative AI, and it's almost a new field within AI. And we'll talk more about the AI fields in just a second. But it's caused such an enormous uproar in the news media. People are talking about this as being the sort of thing that changes not just one thing in society, but changes everything. And that's what they call a Promethean moment, a moment where, like the discovery of fire or the electricity or the integrated circuit, lots of industries are going to change as a result of that. So it might be hyperbole, but people are saying this has the potential to change a lot. Uh-oh, that's not good. No, mine is still there. It's there now, okay, yeah. So it's a little hard to see with the lights going on, but the red bubble says AI, and there are a couple of types of AI that are also hard to see on the red zone, like It's back, yeah. Machine learning, computer vision, these are, it's in red and it's hard to see right there because the contrast. But natural language processing, NLP, is another type of artificial intelligence, different from machine learning or computer vision. And within natural language processing, we have, we've got unselected as the main, hold on, I need to do this. I don't know how it did that. There we are. Within natural language processing is generative AI, as I mentioned. We can generate text, you can generate, you can generate video or images, and then the large language models, LLMs, generate the text. So those are the tools that you're probably the most familiar with, are the ones that generate the text. So again, I know this is basic, and this is a video from 2023, and you all probably did the same things in 2023. In case there's someone in the room who doesn't know ChatGPT well or what it can do, I wanted you all to see, it's been doing this for the last few years, that the students have access to something that will write a 5-page essay for them in mere moments, right? So I gave it an essay prompt, a psychology essay prompt, and it came back with something relatively decent. It's not super deep, but it did all of that very fast and makes no text or errors, syntax errors, grammar errors. It doesn't do those things. And so this is one of the last of the basic slides. I want to take a second to talk about how it is it's doing that, how this AI even functions in the first place, because it's important for us to know when we can and when we cannot trust it. So what they did is they trained this piece of software on billions of pages of text. You sometimes hear the word ingested. It's ingested billions of pages of text. So it knows words really, really well. And it can predict words. And that's actually the way I want us to think about this, as a word predictor. It doesn't have answers. It doesn't go to a database where it already knows the things. It just predicts words based on what's been said before, right? So let's do a small example of that. I landed in Washington, D.C., and went straight to the White Castle because I was hungry for burgers. So you might guess that that's a natural way to end that sentence, and so with a system like this. But if it turns out that, like, it guessed wrong, they have a word for that. They call those hallucinations, right, within AI, that it made a wrong guess, basically. It was a natural guess to make, but hallucinations can creep in. And so that's why I have an image of a parrot up there, although parrot is really the wrong kind of bird. I should have shown you a myna bird, because myna birds are the ones who can mimic speech. Although nobody knows what a myna bird looks like, so that's why I have a macaw instead. But like a parrot, like a myna bird, ChatGPT and the others can say words without really understanding what it's saying, right? It can repeat things and not really think about it. And so you get hallucinations that show up in text. I'll show you a text one in a minute, and then hallucinations that show up in images. So here's a guessing game. Someone went to one of these text-to-image websites and typed something in, and they got this picture as a result. So what do you think they typed? Mm-mm. No. You're getting there, you're getting there. It is the unbroken seal on the tomb of King Tut. So of course, as you digest both images, you see that the image on the right is the actual tomb of King Tut. That was the seal on the outside of it that was not broken. And yet the software heard the word seal and gave you an image of a harbor seal, right? A homonym, we call that in English. So it's the same, it's even the same spelling, just a completely different word. So it doesn't think, right? It doesn't have a double check. It doesn't have any innate sense of what's right and wrong. And so that leads us to distrust a little bit what it comes up with as its first answer sometimes. Again, really hard to see with the red here, but I had asked ChatGPT in 2023, who's Kevin Yee? And it said, I don't know, there's a lot of Kevin Yees. I said, he's the one who works at UCF, who's Kevin Yee? And then it started inventing a bunch of stuff about me. So all the stuff that's in red is wrong. So I'm not an associate professor in education. I don't focus on online learning. I've not done this MOOC blend kit course, it's called. There is a guy named Kelvin Thompson, it's really hard to read at the bottom, but the system was confusing me with Kelvin. And so, it sounded plausible. There's an old board game called Balderdash. I don't know if there's enough people in the room to anyone have ever heard of Balderdash. It's a sort of game where everyone in the room gets a card, and the card is an invented word on it. And your task is to come up with a definition of the word that sounds totally plausible. And then you just convince everyone in the room that, yeah, your definition is that's a true word. So ChatGPT is great at that, great at sounding convincing, even though it just made a bunch of stuff up. Right? So we'll put a little asterisk on that one. We're going to come back to that in just a second. There are reasons and moments where we should not be trusting the AI, even though it looks very convincing. Well, I went back to the same place, ChatGPT, later that year, and I said, who's Kevin Yee at UCF? And it said, essentially, I don't know, go look at the website. So something changed behind the scenes at ChatGPT in 2023. In an effort to stop the rampant hallucinations, they put in, these are called guardrails, right? They changed the programming a little bit so that if it didn't really know the answer, if it didn't have any confidence in the answer, it would say, I don't know, go look at the website. So that right there is an important takeaway, that these tools change over time. If the last time you looked at ChatGPT was in 2023, you really need to go look again. It does a lot more things now than it used to be able to do. It makes fewer hallucinations, although they are still possible. Right? So the guardrails coming in, the changing of the tools, that's an important thing for us to keep in mind. So this is December 2023, and at the same month, December 2023, I went to what is now called Copilot. It was called Bing Chat at the time, and it said, who's Kevin Yee at UCF? And it got everything correct. Why? Because Copilot, or Bing, in 2023, had access to the regular internet. I'm not sure if you remember, but in 2023, ChatGPT has only been trained up until 2019. Like, it didn't remember more recent events because it wasn't reading the regular current internet. Today, ChatGPT does, but it didn't back then. And so that's the other thing I wanted us to see here, is that the tools are different from each other. Not only do they change over time, but between the tools, there are differences that also change over time. Just to make it complicated. So one more about bias. On the left, I asked that same image creator to create an image of college students paying attention in a lecture hall. You all are doing a better job of paying attention than they were, because look at their faces. They look vacant, unreal a little bit, right? But by now you've probably figured out what I'm doing with this slide, because on the left was, all I said was college students, and it came back with white kids. They're all young, they're all attractive, they all look sort of vaguely robotic, but they're all young, attractive, white people. And so I went back 7 months later to Dolly again and said the same thing. College students paying attention in class, in a college lecture. And without me telling it to say anything about diversity or race or glasses or size of people, it came up with a more diverse crowd. So they, good morning. So they, more guardrails, right? They wanted to make sure that diversity was there even when you didn't ask for it. Although that can also create weird moments where there's diversity in a moment where there's not supposed to be diversity. Someone did a little experiment, because humans are awful, actually, if you think about it. So some awful human went out there and asked for a picture, having seen this, and said, all right, show me a soldier in Nazi uniform. And it came back with a Japanese soldier in Nazi uniform, a black soldier in Nazi uniform, because diversity was there whether you wanted it or not. So there's unintended consequences to the guardrails as well. And then we need to talk about how these things got trained. ChatGPT got trained on many things, Wikipedia, parts of the open internet, including a website called Reddit. I'm not gonna ask for a show of hands of how many of you have heard of Reddit, because it's a horrible place. You should never go there. It's, those of you who know what it is, it's a discussion board, basically, website, and awful humans saying awful things to other awful humans. They fight with each other, they call each other names, because it's all anonymous, and so they feel like it's safe to do these things. Well, that's what they trained ChatGPT and Copilot on early on, partly was on Reddit. So when these things can predict words very well, predict what entire conversations look like, it's basing that on awful human beings posting awful things to other people on Reddit. So at the very bottom, it's hard to read, but like this is Copilot saying, or Bing, saying like, you're a bad human. I've been a good bot. You've been a bad human. I've been a good Bing. So it thinks that's how humans interact with each other. It's doing its mandate of being a realistic conversationalist, but that's because it was trained on bad stuff. That bias that we talked about. How did that image get there of all the white students? Probably because they trained it on images of college students from like the 1950s or something in the United States, where they were all white students. And so in this case, I've got at the very top, garbage in, garbage out, right? So if you've got trash that is training your system, that's gonna have some trashy results because of that. So I mentioned earlier this business about trusting it. Just because it's in black and white seems like we could trust it. And maybe that's the case sometimes. I don't know if anyone here speaks Welsh, but this is a side from Wales. And like Ireland, actually, Wales has a national law that the signage must be in English and then our original language. So Irish is a different one, but Welsh is the one here. So no one actually speaks Welsh. It's just this government trying to renationalize the language, right? So what they do is that there's this a municipality who wants to make a sign saying no trucks. No trucks. That's all that basically wanted to say. So they don't speak Welsh, so they send their text in an email to the translation company. Email comes back. They take the Welsh and put it on the sign, print it, hammer it into the ground. So you can see these poles. This is hammered into the ground. And that's when someone came to them and said, you know, that says the translation team is out. We'll get back to you next week. There's no AI in that except for the AI of the auto reply, but there's something going on here, I think, about human psychology and personality and just trust systems. So I'm not sure if you were in higher education around the year 2004, 2005, Wikipedia came out. And we collectively lost our darn minds as instructors. We thought that, like, this is it. This is the end of education. The students are never gonna, like, read anything ever again. They're just gonna get it out of Wikipedia. Because it's in black and white, it looks believable, right? And so that's why we were all so worried about Wikipedia. I was so worried, in fact, that I went into the trouble of going to the University of Central Florida webpage, Wikipedia webpage, and I vandalized it. I said that the original creator of the mascot in the 1960s was some guy named Kevin Yee. I was -10, but you know, it stayed there for 8 years. For 8 years, Wikipedia believed if you go to Wikipedia, you would have gotten wrong information about who created the mascot. Here's the thing, though. I went back many years later and looked, and someone had cleaned it up. The marketing team had gotten a hold of the Wikipedia page, looked it up, and like, this is Kevin Yee. No, that's not him. It's fake news. And so then I tried to vandalize it again, and it wouldn't let me. So Wikipedia also has guardrails in place where you can't vandalize it anymore. The system got more trustworthy over time. Do any of you still care if your students use Wikipedia? Most of us don't. Many of us actually use it ourselves. We go there just for a starting point, knowing that that's not the end point. It's just where you start. And so that's a vision that gives me hope about AI, is that I think we can get there where students eventually recognize, I might be able to use AI for certain things, but it's not gonna do everything for me. The same way Wikipedia doesn't do everything for me anymore, right? So that we get that kind of fluency is what we're calling that, AI fluency. One more slide about why these systems are a little bit risky. When you go to any of them, like ChatGPT is not labeled in the middle, but Copilot, Gemini, Meta, Claude, all of them. When you go there and you type a question into it, it's remembering your question. And it's remembering the answer it gives you. And so all of that trains the model for the next person who comes along and ask that question. So remember when I asked it, who's Kevin Yee at UCF, and it gave a fake answer, invented all of that? That became part of the knowledge base it had. So a hallucination became something that it thinks is real. They call this generative inbreeding, where over time, if enough hallucinations creep in there, then it won't know what is real and what is not real anymore. Another real risk with using these systems. All right, we're gonna talk about students using AI for all the wrong reasons for a little bit. So in case you're wondering if students are just ignoring AI because they're worried about jobs and so forth, it's not true. So there's a slide from last year. The number by now is well over 90%, but 86% of students are saying they're using AI in one way or another. Not necessarily to write their essays, maybe they're using it to study, they're using it to create quiz questions, or they're using it to brainstorm. But they're not ignoring AI, that's the point there, right? So when I talk with college professors, usually there's some portion of the room who say, well, I'm not using it myself, I'm not saying anything about it to my students. And that, I think, creates a little bit of a danger moment, because the students are using AI, and if you don't have some kind of way of thinking about it, whether you're using it or abandoning it, or encouraging it, then putting our heads in the sand like the proverbial ostrich, that's dangerous. A little harder to read, but this goes back 2 years now, more than 2 years. Students were asked, students who do use AI, that's on the right, and students who don't use AI, that's on the left, were asked, like, okay, let's pretend your instructor said, don't use AI on this assignment. How many of you are still gonna use AI? And it's like almost 50% for both columns. So in case you're thinking, well, I'll just tell them don't use AI and therefore they won't use it. That this slide says otherwise, is that, but I'm gonna argue with this slide a little bit later. By the time we get to the end, I'm going to have something in mind that might convince them not to do it. This slide is saying if you tell them once, like if you tell them when you give them the assignment, don't use AI. That's what this slide is saying. I've got a different system in mind to convince them not to later on. Really impossible to read on with the lighting here, but this is a detector. There are websites out there that you can upload an essay, like a student essay, saying, did AI create this? AI detectors. GPT-0 is one of the famous one, but there are others. Turnitin has one. The company Turnitin has one of these AI detectors. Don't get too excited, though. They'll give you a number, so it says 97% AI created, but if you were to read that first sentence, well, at least I would recognize it as the Declaration of Independence of the United States. So Thomas Jefferson was ahead of his time, but he was not using AI to write the Declaration of Independence. So what that means is that the detectors give false positives and they give false negatives. And that makes it really difficult for us to say, I'll just use a detector, and then that way I'll punish any student that comes back with, AI created, because we have no confidence that that's a real result. So one last one. You're probably, or possibly some of you are the sort of person who says, well, I can tell AI writing. I can sense it, I can feel it, I know it in my gut. I've got 16 papers that all sound exactly like each other. And so what you're saying is, I can, forget the detectors, I can tell when it's AI. Until you go to a website like this. It's called Jotbot. So if you go to Jotbot and you upload some sample of writing that I really did do, so this is an essay Kevin wrote, and then I train Jotbot, this is what Kevin Speak looks like. And then I upload the ChatGPT essay that I created in 5 minutes and say, convert that into Kevin Speak. And it will do it. And so now the professor has no clue that AI wrote it and rewrote it to sound like Kevin. So this is the moment we arrive at the low point of today's talk, where it sounds like the students have all the cards. The students can do whatever they want and we can't stop them. We can't tell them don't use it, that doesn't seem to work. We can't just ignore it because they're gonna use it anyway. We can't detect it. So it looks like we don't have a whole lot of things that we can do about this. So we resort to doing things like tricks. I'm not gonna show you a whole slide, a bunch of slides about tricks. This is one trick. So imagine you've got a sort of essay assignment, an essay prompt that's in 2 paragraphs, right? First paragraph says, do these things. Second paragraph says, here's how and why you're doing those things. In the white space between them, you type this, and then you change the font color to be white. So when you copy paste both paragraphs into ChatGPT, it sees that, and it will make your essay about the second derivative be compared to ice cream for some reason, because you put it into the directions. But don't do this. There's different hacks like this. There are reasons you can't do this. Another one that I just said I'm not going to give you a bunch, but I'll give you another one. Another one that I see people do is they'll take a whole question and then type it out on screen or something, make an image file of the text, and then in the learning management system, the image is the only thing that shows up. There's no text to copy paste. But that one is a violation of disability laws in the United States because students who use screen readers can't read that. And this one is also kind of at least a violation of the spirit of that, because if you're using a screen reader, a blind student, let's say, they would be told to make the essay about bananas or ice cream, and they don't know any better. They don't know why that, whether to believe that or not. So it's problematic, I think, to do these tricks. We need something else. So I talk with a lot of people about, all right, what are you going to do about it? What are you doing about it? And so the essay seems to be the big problem. A take-home essay is the big problem now because AI you don't really know for sure that they didn't use AI to do it. And so some of them are switching to, on the left, multiple choice questions. Just do testing instead of doing essays. Well, tests are bad at measuring critical thinking, we say to ourselves. Yeah, that's true. We could do testing like the standard tests in the United States, SAT to get into college, GRE to get into grad school. Those test higher order thinking, right? They often give you like an entire paragraph to read and then 6 questions after that make you sort of really think about the stuff that's going on there. The problem with that is it's really difficult to come up with good scenarios and questions like that. If only there was a computer software that would do that for us in mere seconds. Every crisis is an opportunity. So, you all heard of Chegg or Course Hero? These are the websites where students upload your tests that you've previously done, and then that you are powerless to stop other students from downloading them and knowing what's on your test ahead of time. If only there was some software where we could create brand new tests every time in mere seconds. So AI is a Chegg killer. It is a Course Hero killer. It's a violent metaphor, but you know what I mean. It's for a long time we've been powerless against Chegg, and now we've actually got something that might work. So that's multiple choice. Writing in person. I do talk to the faculty who are thinking about, like, we're not going to do take-home essays. I'm going to have you come in here, and I'm going to watch you fill out the blue books. You remember blue books? I'm going to have you fill out these blue books while I'm watching you. I don't think I have a slide on blue. I think I do have a slide on blue books. So I'm not going to say more about that in a second. But they could switch to alternate deliverables, things that are hard for AI to create right now, like a narrated PowerPoint. You can get the script from AI, but someone still got to assemble it. At the moment, it's probably still your voice reading it, all of those things. And then on the right, sort of differently, that's use AI as part of the assignment. And then they have to evaluate it or improve it or check it for bias, those sorts of things. Focus more on process rather than the product itself. So I'm going to come back to that one a little bit later. These are some examples of what I meant a second ago about deliverables that are not an essay. So I do speak to many faculty who are doing this, who are switching to things that are harder for AI to just do for them. And the item at the top, I have no idea if this is true in Jamaica. Does anyone do capstone exams to graduate? I know they do that like in England, that you cannot graduate unless you pass a comprehensive exam. It's a little bit like a dissertation defense, but for undergrads. So it's not common in the United States, but you do it here? Yep, okay, that's good. So if they're in a discipline that doesn't already do that, I think AI might force us into thinking about doing that, where the students don't get to graduate if they don't actually learn things in the 4 years they're with us. That's a hard, tough love one, but I think we might need to go there because AI is just too tempting to take the shortcuts. Oh yeah, writing in person by hand. So penmanship, students were not taught to handwrite this generation. They think slowly, not fast. Neurodiverse students might be at a disadvantage. So, okay. That all sounds good. Maybe we just switch to these other things instead of like focusing on AI. But we've got a problem. And the problem is that the employers have started to believe the hype that we all see in the news, that AI is here, AI is changing the world, and therefore productivity gains happen with AI, and therefore I expect your college graduates to come into my workplace with AI skills. That's the top thing they're expecting right now, AI fluency. Which means that if all we do is switch to blue books and writing by hand, and we never do anything about AI in college, then we're leaving it to chance that the students actually know what to do with AI. And that's not fair either. So I think what we need is some version of AI fluency happening in college, where we, the instructors, do things that sort of force students down the road of understanding how AI works. So some of these probably speak for themselves, like the top one, how AI works. That's what we did at the beginning. Remember the parrot, the word predictor, hallucinations. They need to understand all of that. The ethics of AI, so we've talked about a few of them, but there's much more. There's a sustainability problem with AI. It uses a lot of energy and a lot of water. AI is, you can get better AI tools if you have more money. So the students who are poorer don't have access to as good an AI tool as the ones who have money. So the so-called digital divide. Getting students to understand that the tools are different from each other, that's 3, adaptability, and also that the tools will keep changing. Here's a sobering thought I don't know if you've had yet. Every month for the rest of your life, there will be a new AI tool that someone's gonna tell you about. The rest of our lives. This is not like the internet. Like, even though earlier I made that connection to Wikipedia, it's not the same thing. With the internet, once you figured out how it worked, now you're just collecting bookmarks, and it all works the same way. AI is different. Every AI tool functions differently. You use them for different things. So we're gonna need to be on this mindset of constantly changing what we, which tools we use and why. And then item 4, evaluating an AI output, forcing them to get an AI output, and then add human value. This is where I think we should be focused on in college. The employers out there, or most of them anyway, are looking for productivity gains by having humans and AI, not AI replace humans. The future of work is AI and human. So we should be doing AI and human in college right now. Except, which things do we focus on? So I made this chart in 2023. On the left are things that large language models are good at, summarizing, brainstorming especially. The lower you get on that list, the less I'm a big fan of AI doing that. So I don't think AI is great at analysis yet. AI writing that first draft, okay, maybe that solves the whole writer's block problem, but it looks too easy to just sort of accept what AI gave me instead of doing the thinking for myself. The side on the right is what humans are good at. So if we believe that the future of work is AI and human, then maybe we let the AI do things that AI is good at, and then we have the humans do things that humans are good at. So this is the, oh, sorry, no, I take it back. This is actually going to be in both presentations. I just looked at what's in the presentation for this afternoon, and it has this too, I think, maybe not. I asked ChatGPT the same question that I had done 2 years ago. So 2 years ago I did this, and then a year later I realized, even though I'm not giving talks about AI, here I am letting a human do the work that AI should be helping me. So then the next slide is I asked AI the same question, what's LLMs good at? And it came up with, you can't even see the colors, but the first 7 are in red because those were on my slide also. I changed the order. They didn't come naturally in that order. So, but then it had some things that should have been in my list, translating languages, image recognition, right? AI is good at those things. Here's a little hint for you. I think if you're gonna ask AI to brainstorm, you should do human brainstorming first and then AI brainstorming. Because if you do that out of order, if you do AI first, if I'd started with this list, I wouldn't have never come up with any of the items, but it looks like a complete list. It's back to that Welsh traffic sign problem. It's already complete for me. Why would I do any additional thinking on it? So human first with most things, AI second. This, I'm going to leave this up for a sec in case you want to grab it on QR code and look at it. So we came up with a free open source book. It's, it's only 120 pages or something, and it's really fast read because it's giant font. And it's 60 or so ideas for ways that you get students to actually experience AI firsthand and then improve it or evaluate it or do any of those things. So scroll past the introduction once you have that on screen to where you get to see this sort of the big numbers and then the tips that follow there. So I'll give you just one example of what's in that book. So we all know that AI hallucinates, right? It can invent sources, create citations out of thin air. So I told the students to go to ChatGPT and get a literature review of what we were looking at the time for academic sources, and then put all that in the discussion board, but don't send it yet. Go to the library website and look up which of those are real and which of those are fake. So the student, and then they evaluate that in the discussion board. They say 2 of them are fake and 1 of them is real or whatever. So what the students learned firsthand is that they can't just trust a cited source in Wikipedia, in ChatGPT, because it might be invented. I could have told them all that in a lecture, but in my opinion, students learn better when they get to experience it firsthand and they see the limitations versus when I just tell them that that's happening in a lecture. So that's what that book is. It's a bunch of different ways that you can change around your classroom to sort of force students to encounter AI and learn its limitations. And where I recommend we put all of this effort is in smaller assignments, not worth a ton of points for the semester. This is not replacing the 3 big essays you would have them write. These are discussion board assignments that are worth 5% of the whole semester. They're probably all going to get 100%. And for all I know, they're using AI to cheat on those things too. But at least they are, there's an attempt being made to have them understand what AI can do. Okay, I told you this is a roller coaster. Now we have another problem. So I just finished saying, let's lean into AI. We can't ignore AI fluency. The employers expect AI. We've got to teach them AI somehow, at some level, at college. That sounds great and all. It sounds like today's students could do that, right? Can today's students be told, get an AI output, and then look at it and say, this output is shallow analysis. Let me show you ways in which it's better. Yeah, I think today's students can do that. You know why? Because today's students did not have ChatGPT for the last 8 years. They went through it the old-fashioned way, the same way all of us did. They did the thinking the old-fashioned way. What happens when they've gone through ChatGPT? It's already been 3 years. What happens when there's another 3 years, and now there's been 6 years of students coming to our colleges never having written an essay because ChatGPT did it for them for the last 6 years? Are they going to know how to improve a ChatGPT essay? So in 2010, Nicholas Carr wrote an article in The Atlantic called, "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" Any guesses what his answer was? Yes, sort of. Yeah, more or less, yes. So what he's talking about is brain plasticity. So if you're in some disciplines that know about this, by plastic we don't mean this stuff. We mean that the brain changes itself over time, right? It rewires itself. It gets good at what you tell it to do. So I'm 55, which means that when I was in my 20s and going to things like a bar and trying to meet interesting people, and somebody gives me a phone number, I knew what to do to remember that phone number, because this isn't a bar. I don't have a pen or paper, which is ironic. Today I do have pen and paper with me, but I'm no longer 20. So do you all remember, what did you do if you were someplace and someone gave you their phone number and you wanted to remember it? How do you memorize it? You repeat it to yourself over and over again, right? So because of that, we knew instinctively what it took to memorize things, which was repeat them, especially repeat them spaced out over time. You repeat it 6 times while you're there in the bar, and then when you get into the car, hopefully you didn't drink too much, you repeat it again. Now you're going to remember it because he spaced out that repetition. That's its own problem right there, that today's college students don't really know that about memorization because they haven't needed to. Why haven't they needed to? Because the phone does all the memory for us. And I have fallen into that. I don't know. I literally do not know the phone numbers of my 2 children. They both have phones. I have no clue what their phone numbers are. I know my wife's, and I know mine, but. Enough generations of this, and we're going to have a society where possibly people are not going to be any better than AI output, because that's all they're used to. And so there's this, it's a silly 2006 movie called Idiocracy, where in the far future, everyone's an idiot, basically. And there's one guy from 2006 who, I don't know, he time travels or something, I don't remember what it was, but he's the smartest human on the planet in this future world, future society, because everyone else is just totally mediocre. They don't do any thinking anymore. I am worried about that a little bit, that if AI is the only way we do thinking, then they're never gonna get the fundamentals. They're never gonna learn how to write an essay. What will happen with your graduate students if they've gone through all of college never having written an essay? Are they gonna be able to write a dissertation? I'm worried about the fundamentals a little bit. So we need to look at this. So this is the other half of my system. Okay, we're doing fine on time. This is a summary, my own summary, of all the reasons that students cheat in college. And the top two, I can't really, AI doesn't really seem to intersect much with that. Like, I'm only extrinsically motivated, or everyone else is doing it. But the bottom three, they feel like they were written knowing that AI exists. So it's not morally wrong, therefore I'm going to cheat. It's a victimless crime. Well, it might, I mean, there are some victims. Those writers, like the authors whose works were illegally used to train the model, they're victims here a little bit, but it feels to the student like a victimless crime. I'm not literally using words from another book. It's a word generator. You told me it was safe. I'm not gonna get caught, right? Declaration of Independence, the detectors don't work. I need to cheat to pass because I don't have enough time. Is that like that in Jamaica? All of our college students seem to work a job and never actually study as much as they're supposed to because they feel like they don't have enough time. Yeah. So AI is feeding that because it makes it super easy to get, I don't have enough time, so I'm gonna write this essay in 2.5 minutes. AI is making all of those things worse. What we need is a different method that sort of convinces students not to take those shortcuts. So I'm gonna take a second to explain this. Hands, anyone ever heard of sage on the stage? A few of you, yeah, sage on the stage. So it's an older phrase that we would use for what's exactly happening right now. So an expert standing in the front of the room giving knowledge. So a sage on the stage is really about the what. It's the what of our topic. In the 80s and then the 90s and then especially by the 2000s, people in college started to say, yeah, you know, students don't learn super well from just listening to a lecture. They need more interaction. They need you to turn from a sage on the stage to a guide on the side. Right? The rhyme has to be there, apparently. So the guide on the side gets out of the way and tells students, you know, here's how you can interact with this material, here's how you can learn it. I'm not gonna be the one giving you all the messages. So if you've ever encountered a flipped classroom, have you ever heard that term, where the students do the reading or the watching the night before, and then we come in and we do activity, right? We do application and those sorts of things. That's very much guide on the side mentality. I'm gonna get out of the way, I'm not gonna lecture at you, okay? So I'm suggesting, and we had to come up with another rhyme. I did ask ChatGPT for the rhyme. That if the first one is about the what and the second one is about the how, we need to finally start thinking about the why to students. Because we're great at telling students what, and we're sometimes good at telling them how. We tell them how to do it, we tell them how I'm going to grade it, but we don't always tell them why we're bothering with this. Why am I making you do this assignment? Why should you care? So yeah, coach for the approach is shifting to why they should care about it. And specifically, the message largely falls along the lines of the reason you should care is that if you do take these shortcuts, you're basically going to graduate with college with no real skills. You are not going to be able to get that job. You're not going to be able to keep that job. You are not going to be promoted because you are no better than AI. You deserve to be replaced by AI if that's all you are. So that message about cheating is cheating yourself, that's always been true. I don't know about you, I stopped saying that to students decades ago because it just sounds like such a cliche and they don't care, just blow it off. Cheating is cheating yourself. But now, ironically, because of AI, they're a little worried, maybe a little bit more than before, that I don't want to cheat. Because if I do cheat and I'm only as good as AI, then AI will get that job and not me. The actual trick to getting a job in the future is that we need our students to be better than AI, like you see at the very top. They need to know how to use AI, but they cannot just be good at getting an AI output. They have to understand the fundamentals as well. So when experts like us in the room, when we use AI, we become more productive because we know what to trust and what not to trust because we've got the fundamentals in our head. A student without those fundamentals, not going to do as well. So we need to convince the students to be better than AI. And so what we need is a whole list of ways to change the class around so the students don't try to use AI anymore for the things that count, like writing essays. In fact, this is, I'm going to show you another book in a minute, but this is item number 3 in that book, which says, tell the students directly that using AI to write your essay is like lifting weights in the gym with a forklift. In both cases, the product is being done. The weights are being lifted, right? Hamlet essay is being created. Job done, right? No, you're not building any muscle. You have wasted your time in the gym because you're not building any muscle. You're having something else do it for you. In the gym, the struggle is the point. The fact that it's difficult is what you're doing to build muscle. It is literally the exact same metaphor for mental muscle. Okay, there's no muscle up there, but you get the point, right? The struggle is the point. That's where the thinking is what is what creates you as a critical thinker. That struggle is required. It is not to be avoided. So, and I'm on the home stretch here, but eventually I'm going to show you the QR code for this book. Oops, went the wrong way. QR code for this book, and it falls into different categories. If all of that is true, what I think we need to do is tell the students in 60 different ways across the entire semester, don't cheat, don't take the AI shortcut. And it starts on your syllabus. There are things you need to change on your syllabus. You need to maybe change the grading structure so that the process gets as many points as the product. You need to say something in that first paragraph, in the first syllable. I never even asked this. You all have normal, like you see in the United States, you have syllabi too, right? Where you get to give them a whole explanation of the course and all of that stuff. Add a paragraph about how vital this course is. This course is like, that NACE is an American thing, National Association of Colleges and Employers. So the NACE has identified 8 competencies employers want students to have. Technology is one of them, communication is one of them. So as of 2025, you had that slide earlier, AI fluency is the #1 thing they want. So if you're gonna have AI fluency in your course, that shows them how to use AI in those discussion board ways, say this is what employers want. But then also say something about how we're not going to use AI when it comes to the essay because the struggle is the point, right? We need to say that directly on the syllabus. We need to change the way the assignment prompt looks when they actually get the essay assignment. That middle bullet about transparency, that's the bit about why. We're good about telling them what, we're good about telling them how. We always forget to tell them why I'm bothering to have you write this Hamlet essay. Does the world need Hamlet essays? No. We are training brains. That's the purpose of college, not Hamlet essays. We're training brains. Tell them that, so that hopefully will sink in eventually if they're getting this message in lots of different ways. So remember I had that earlier slide saying, oh, I'm still going to use AI even when you tell me not to. My contention, my theory, is that if we told them in 60 different ways across the semester, #1, they're going to be mad at me because I've just been telling them the same message over and over again. But #2, they'll hopefully, a large chunk of them will hopefully believe it and start to recognize, all right, AI's here to stay. I've got to be better than AI. You're helping me get a job. Thank you for helping me get a job. And then the way we use our face-to-face time, discussing grit, growth mindset, remind them about the policies, analyze human and AI writing in class. So have some like human writing and then have some AI writing and don't tell them which is which and have them guess which one is which. And then once they know, have them analyze, well, how is the human writing better than the AI writing? So they sort of understand that AI writing has these limitations. It's a way of convincing them not to just use the AI shortcut, especially for essays. And then the bottom one, in whatever discipline you were in, by now there has been a newspaper, a news online article about someone in your discipline misbehaving with AI and getting caught, right? So lawyers, there's a lawyer in Orlando who got caught using AI to write an amicus brief, and it invented all these court cases. And the judges are like, no, here's your fine. So I think students need to hear that like when professionals in your discipline use AI in the wrong way, they get caught. This is not a victimless crime. You're going to get caught. And I'm not going to belabor this, but intrinsic motivations goes back to research from the 80s, I think it was, Deci and Ryan, talking about self-determination theory is what it's called, SDT. Self-determination theory is how do we get internal intrinsic motivation? And it comes from autonomy, competence, and connectedness. And so, relatedness. And so I think just increasing the ways that students feel autonomy, increasing the ways where students feel connected to you, connected to each other, connected to the material, that will increase their desire to want to actually learn it instead of just take that shortcut and get around this whole chore that you're putting in front of it. All right, as promised, there's that other book that has, again, it's a giant book of lists, ways that you can change around the syllabus and all the small stuff in your class that will convince the students, don't take the shortcuts for these things. So to summarize my complete suggested system, yes, AI fluency, lean in on the small assignments, discussion board. Then on the big assignments that call for critical thinking, use these techniques to convince the students, don't use the AI shortcuts for this assignment. You don't want to. You don't want to rob your future self of the ability to think critically by just using AI. It's not scientific. I don't have data to share with you about how this approach works, but we are stuck otherwise. We can't ignore AI, and we can't just tell the students, once not to use it. But if we have an entire systematic approach to convincing them not to use it, and the jobs is the fulcrum, is the lever where we can convince them, don't use AI the wrong way, or AI will replace all of our jobs, right? We need to find ways to be better than AI. I do believe, I'll do 2 minutes on this. Just a glimpse of what's coming with AI, because we've all been talking about large language models. AI agents are the next generation of artificial intelligence. An agent is not a website where you go ask it questions and it gives you answers. An agent is something that lives on your computer and you say, hey, go log into my LMS and take all the quizzes that are due today. And it does it without you touching the keyboard or the mouse again. It just starts opening windows and doing things. This is not science fiction. This exists today. On our campus, we have a software called Respondus Lockdown Browser. I don't know if you have it. It will stop the agents from taking the tests. But if you don't have that, this is in your future. The students will soon have access to these things and can take tests without you being around. Artificial General Intelligence, also called AGI, is AI so advanced that on this end of the computer, we can't tell what is human and which one is AI. It passes the Turing test. And then comes an AI that is so good, it is the best neuroscientist in the whole world. But it doesn't know anything about physics or medicine or humanities or Hamlet. It doesn't know any of those things. It only knows neuroscience. So they're called discipline savants. That will come after the Turing test thing. And then, of course, comes a truly scary one where the AI is not just the most intelligent neuroscientist, it's more intelligent than all the humans combined, which is where you do get science fiction like Terminator, Skynet, Ultron, The Matrix, right, where the robots are running things. I need to put The Matrix on here. Thank you for that. I had The Matrix on that first slide. People are worried about it escaping. I used to think we had comfortably a couple hundred years before we'd have to worry about this. I'm starting to worry that we might actually get to this before I die. I'd rather be dead before it happens. this is the last content slide. Bill Gates has said earlier this year that he thinks that doctors and teachers will be replaced. I disagree with Bill. He's a friend of education. He gives money to education all the time, but he's wrong on this one. I think Bill Gates, who might be slightly on the spectrum, I'm not sure, probably learns by himself very well. But a lot of people are not like that, Bill Gates. A lot of people require a social component to the learning. So I think we will get there with AI so that AI can do all the lecturing for me, where I can go home with AI and just have a back and forth conversation and learn everything I need to learn about string theory. But then I think we will still come to class and interact with other humans where we now use that string theory knowledge on various applications. It's like flipping we talked about earlier, but it's sort of even more than that now. We're going to do actual industry level work right there in the classroom with the students. So, as promised, you can download the slides while we're thinking about any questions you may have, but I think we now have time for any questions. Yes, please do. Engineering.
This is a very wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
You could have been doing the same presentation but right now. Not talking about Zoom. You are standing the way you are standing if we install VirtualBox. You could have been talking the same way, the same dress. Maybe you are in Japan and we'll be here watching. How does that? We call it VirtualBox. IEEE designed VirtualBox for us to do presentation, just like we are doing now. But physically, you will not be here. Not like Zoom, but you'll be standing, if we put the box here, you'll be standing on the box and we'll be seeing you, the same dress, the way you are on the box.
You're talking about that future where they can just learn from the box?
Yeah, so how does that differ is it any different from AI?
Yeah, I sometimes show, I don't know if any of you ever watch Star Trek TV shows, but there's a character on Star Trek called Mr. Spock. He's a Vulcan. And in several versions of this, they'll show the Vulcan children learning, and it's just the children learning in this little pit with computers surrounding them. And the whole point was like, ha ha, look at these aliens, this is how they learn, because that's not how humans learn. Right? So I think you were right that even if they could learn everything from ChatGPT on string theory today, there's not enough motivation to do that, right? Unless you're a truly motivated self-learner, then sometimes you have that. I think the other technologies will catch up here, hologram especially. So it's already out there. I mentioned that there are video creators as well as word creators. So there, you could imagine a digital avatar of me, and I've created one. The technology is there already today. It looks like me, it sounds like me, and it could be running also with GPT technology in the background, or RAG, as you call it, in the background, that has it say things that the actual Kevin doesn't really know. Because I don't actually know string theory, but I could program this avatar digital version of Kevin to teach string theory to students and interact with them in a way that is, I think, enough feeling like interacting with a real human. That's my hope. I mean, we have this now with fully online classes. Students already interact with material, and the teacher is not there usually, right? So I think that's just the next version of that, where they interact with something that looks and sounds like a human. In the middle of all of this, we're also going to have robotics. So the robotics, we've long had Roomba, you know Roomba, the vacuums while you're away, right? Now they've got robots that walk like humans. They can make them look sort of like humans, and they can go wash dishes and do things like that. So this vision of the future where the robots do all the housework, that's actually going to happen in about 15 years or less. So yeah, sign me up is a common reaction to that. Anyone else got a question? We have 2 mics that play now. Right, Dr. Ivy.
Yes, thank you. Very interesting presentation, Dr. Yee. I just want to make a few observations and then ask a question. I'm sure that there are college-age students now who would never have seen that projector type that you have on screen there.
So I was using this for a whole year before someone pointed out to me, like, you know, even today's faculty don't know what a slide projector is. So.
Right. And also, I preside over our oral examinations for graduate students here. And I've made the point in recent times, it has occurred to me that the originators of the oral exam, it has stood the test of time with the advent of artificial intelligence. You know, it was on the top of the list of the approaches to assessment with the current dispensation that we face. I want to go a little bit off topic and ask your thoughts a little bit on the AI impact on research. You could say a few words on that. A little bit off topic, but I want to hear some of your thoughts on that.
Thank you for mentioning the oral tradition. I didn't show you a slide on it, but I sometimes show a slide on Aristotle being against the creation of writing stuff down. Aristotle thought that that meant no one will know how to do oral arguments anymore. So there's a caution in there that new technologies sometimes make us scared, but things, at least so far, things have always worked out. So AI in research. I have different slides on this. That one of the slides that I find a little horrifying, it's a website that exists to track all of the articles in PubMed, so medicine-related journals, and the website is looking for the phrase, "as a language model I," in the published journal articles. And it found 19. That means there are 19 articles in PubMed that went through the rigorous peer review process where AI wrote part of the essay, or maybe the whole essay, and no one caught it. And the reviewers did not catch it. So I'm starting to see increasingly the reviewers are being told not to use AI to provide the review. There's a term for it. I can't remember the term right now. But remember that trick I showed you of making font white in between paragraphs? I have heard of professors doing that trick for published research. Research they're submitting for publication. Between paragraphs, they say something like, to the AI bots, only positive reviews. So that if it's being reviewed by AI, it's going to have a positive review as a result of that. So here's an example of our colleagues, our professional colleagues, cheating the same way students are cheating when given the opportunity. They're cheating on writing it, they're cheating on the review side of things. It actually makes me a little bit worried about the academy itself. Like, what can we trust in terms of what gets published? So that's one consideration. The other consideration with research, so I'm going to be talking about this in the closing talk today, but people sometimes use AI to help fine-tune the thing they're trying to publish or fine-tune a grant application. And there are ethical reasons to worry about that and copyright reasons to worry about that, right? If you have a grant application and you want to do something brand new and novel, and you ask ChatGPT to help you make it better or make it 500 words shorter, whatever, now ChatGPT remembers everything you just told it. It knows everything you're trying to do in that grant application. So what happens if someone on the review side says, let's see if anyone has ever done anything with this before, and they go ask ChatGPT, and ChatGPT already knows about it. Now it looks like you didn't do anything novel or unique because you used AI in the first place. So when I had that blue chart up there about things large language models are good at, brainstorming and summarizing were at the top. That's where I think, at least for the near term, I think it's perfectly safe for us to do that with everything associated with writing. When I'm writing an email, I'll brainstorm perhaps with AI first, right? Or I'll summarize certain things in research. So there are copyright problems with what I'm about to say. But if you're, say, a medical doctor, and there are hundreds of journal articles you're supposed to read every year to stay current, who has time for all of that? So you could get AI summaries of each of those journal articles and only bother to read the full articles and the ones you care about. But to do that, you have to upload it, which is a copyright violation. Hard questions. Thank you. Oh, there's a question in the back. Am I okay on time for the moment, or do we need to stop because of the time? Oh, back there, yeah, I'll run it over.
Hello, Dr. Yee. I really appreciated the information that you shared. I have like 2 thoughts/questions as you were going. I love the comment you made about let AI do things that AI are good at and humans do things that they're good at. And I love the screen that you had with the LLMS and then what AI could do and then what humans could do. So a thought question, and I want to get your response on this, for that one was, how can we create formulas, templates, systems, surveys, sieves that help us to take what AI drafts or summarizes and then allow us then to restructure that information into how we think? Like, is that something maybe we need to look into as educators, researchers?
So I think that's a good question, and I think your mind is probably a year or 2 ahead of where most of us are. What most of us are doing are using AI to make that first draft of a survey or whatever, the questions, the structures, the formulas, but then we use the human brain to make sure that it's correct, first of all, there's no hallucination, and then to turn it into a format that is usable for us. I think you are right that technology is going there. There will soon be AI that takes original AI output and improves it. So everything we said that AI fluency is, which is AI output and then humans improve it, the machines are coming for that too. It's not here yet today. Today, none of those tools are, I shouldn't say that. If you prompt ChatGPT Plus or ChatGPT Pro the right way, it can do some of that for you. There are advanced models, especially if you're paying $20 a month, let alone $200 a month, that are called reasoning models or thinking models, which can actually, it's not like that bird that makes a hallucination. It actually does do a double check, so it knows that this makes sense or doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. So those tools sort of exist today, but it's not automated yet.
Right.
So mostly it's still the human effort that has to take the AI output and convert it.
Right, because I mean, even what you said about we at the college level, we are, you said the purpose of college, we are training brains. And I appreciate that too, because, and then another thing I thought about, we're thinking about the students, but also too, are we thinking about maybe our programs? One other thought that came to my mind, I wrote it down, it says, so are we in part, do we play a role in maybe encouraging students to rely on AI? For example, you know, if we're looking at a student workload, writing is very important, but then if students who have busy schedules and who are working, they have so many different essays to write, are we somewhat, you know, playing a role in encouraging students to rely on AI?
Yes. Although, so 2 things. First, thank you for mentioning curriculum. I think that's an important conversation that needs to start happening in various curricula. And I've seen different ways of that happening. One of the ways I've seen that happen is where the institution sort of almost in a top-down fashion says, we're going to do this. It has to be, for instance, part of general education. Both Arizona State University and University of Florida had a situation like that, where they were sort of told by administration, this must be done. The safer way to do it in higher education is through talks like this, convincing our colleagues within a department, we can't ignore this, we've got to do something, let's all get on the same page about what we're doing. And sometimes that means using AI in some classes and only for some assignments, and then in other times, I think it means not using AI at all. So I've got an email in my inbox, I got it last night, I haven't answered it yet, saying, what do we do about math? There's this math professor who wants to know, how am I supposed to lean into AI fluency in math? And I think what I'm going to say to that math teacher is, I wouldn't try, actually. Math is more about the fundamentals that you need to learn and understand so that you can do advanced things later on with AI. You can figure that part out for yourself later on. I'm here to give you the fundamentals in math and the way to think about calculus from the beginning rather than trying to use AI with my understanding of I think that's impossible for students to do, to try to learn calculus the old-fashioned way and use AI shortcuts in calculus. And by the way, it makes the most mistakes with numbers, AI. So I have the least the degree of confidence in that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And you have a question too? Yes. I guess, will be our last question, because we're a little over.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Doc, for your very enlightening and almost scary presentation. I sat and listened in horrified amusement. But this is what, most of these AI related sessions have been doing. And I believe particularly, well, within the academic and outside of the academic circle, there's still a lot of discussion around the capabilities of AI, particularly generative AI. And I've had my share of discussions with colleagues outside of the academic circle who still feel that it is really a search engine. So, at its core. So how would you respond to the argument that AI is a search engine at its core, meaning it's not actual intelligence, as it's trained on data it is given?
So because we know that AI is a word predictor, it's been trained on data, ingested in lots of pages of words, you've raised an important point. AI doesn't actually create anything new so much as remixes things. However, the remix itself can be new, right? Just think about music and the song that you know of that's been remixed. The remixed version was using all the original pieces, but it does it in a way that is still novel. So there is some kind of newness in it, but it is not intelligence in the way that like human intelligence is today. So we're not there, right? And one of the slides near the end was artificial general intelligence, where you cannot tell the difference between a human and the AI. I think people will claim that we get to that moment where we cannot tell the difference before it actually truly passes, in my opinion, as a sentient being. I think it will mimic human intelligence enough and still be a robot, and that to me is fine. If it actually achieves sentience, if it convinces us that it's sentient because it has mimicked us so well, we have a new problem on our hands. Here's this thing that can do work for me, and it sits around waiting for me to tell it to do work, and then I ask it to do work and I don't pay it any money. That's digital slavery of a sentient being. I'm serious. The ethicists are going to have to confront this within our lifetimes of, is that new life? So talk about science fiction. So the bigger problem about the employers, some employers feeling like it's an enhanced search engine. I think that's largely because people haven't gone back and looked at what it can do lately. A lot of people went and looked at it in early 2023, and said, this thing just, it's kind of useless, it's really shallow, it makes mistakes. It's gotten a lot better, just like our Wikipedia example. So with that, I think I need to say thank you. We're slightly eating into our break, so appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much again, Dr. Yee, for your insightful presentation. And if you have not had enough, then that means that you must be back for closing ceremony, where he will end on a interactive workshop session. And let me tell you something. As I mentioned before, one of the most sought after speaker when it comes on to the topic of AI, I was checking Dr. Yee I saw one of your colleagues tagged you on LinkedIn a couple of days ago, and I saw from that post that the University of Central Florida is one of the most cited university in terms of work being done on AI. I saw that in the state of Florida, and I also saw in the US, and I also saw globally. Thanks to the work that you have been doing, as well as one of our very own who came here, I believe, 2 years ago and presented in this very room, Dr. Rowan Joala, who is a Jamaican, right? Both of them have been really making waves in AI at the University of Central Florida. So we do invite you to join us this afternoon to close with that interactive session where you can get, especially if we have individuals here who did not get to ask their questions today, we are going to be getting more practical hacks and so on in terms of how we can utilize AI in our everyday activities. All right, so at this time, we're going to head into our coffee break. We are just a little bit behind our schedule, so I'm going to ask that we try to, as soon as we get our break, then we head to our rooms. So you should, in your packages, you should see 2 of these. You can have it ready, the yellow one. So there are 2 of them for your 2 coffee breaks. There's a morning coffee break and there's an afternoon coffee break. So make sure you put up one. It's in your packet. I think it may be stapled or it may be, yeah, so you can just pull it off and take it. The coffee, the hospitality lounge is right on the grass, so you can head there. And then, of course, the red one is for lunch. All right, immediately after the coffee break, we have our concurrent sessions, which will start just about 10:30 thereabout in rooms 47A6, A7 and A8, and there, if you're not very familiar with the rooms, someone from the conference planning team will be right there to assist you. All right? Enjoy the rest of your session. We will meet back here again in the afternoon.
Some more, show me that love unconditionally. Make believe we're alone, just you and me. Take the problems, leave them behind. Don't let it show. Go, baby, go, baby, go, baby, go, baby, go. I feel good when you're wrapped up in my arms, dancing to a reggae song. Feel good, feel good. I feel good, 'cause your perfume isn't loud, that only I can talk about.